Hello, I'm Kerwin,
And this is Keith.
and we are Father-Son Galaxy. Timelines, from the time before the High Republic to the fall of the First Order, is a book by DK Publishing released last April that provides chronological events throughout the Star Wars history, from 26,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, BBY, to 35 years after the Battle of Yavin. The book covers 7 eras: early history, the High Republic, the fall of the Jedi, the reign of the Empire, the Age of Rebellion, the New Republic, and the rise of the First Order. To cover this much history, Timelines was written by 5 authors: Kristen Baver, Jason Fry, Cole Horton, Amy Rakow, and our guest, Clayton Sandell. Clayton is an Emmy Award-winning broadcast journalist, producer, and author. He worked as a correspondent for ABC News, appearing on Good Morning America, World News Tonight, and Nightline. Clayton is currently a national correspondent for Newsy, an EW Scripps company. Clayton, welcome to Father-Son Galaxy once again.
Hey guys, I feel like we have been hanging out a lot lately, and I love it.
Yes. Yeah, I know you're a very important man. I'm sure you've been going around and talking about this incredible book that you wrote. So congratulations on the Timeline book. Just wanted to hold it up. So
thank you. There it is. There it is. In all its beautiful glory. Yes, it is.
Yes,
finally
it
out
is. Yes.
After
it's
all that
quite
time.
Heavy too. it is quite heavy.
I have one here. It's 300 some odd. It's almost 350 pages. I think. I mean, it's a heavy one. It certainly is.
Yeah. It's well detailed. So I was curious that I found it interesting that there wasn't a book like this already available. For some reason, I thought there was. Did you think the same way? Did you feel that maybe there was a book already out there that had a timeline of all of Star Wars history?
Yeah, I think a couple of us kind of had that thought, that it was sort of hard to believe that in all of the history of Star Wars publishing and Lucasfilm publishing that nobody had actually tackled this very thing. But and it would have been super helpful in putting this together. So we sort of had to help invent it. And so really, I think one of the reasons why it had never been done before is it covers all of the canon material. So it's the films and everything post 2015. So and there's a lot of stuff. But yeah, I think we all kind of thought, oh, this is really the kind of book I would love to read, and I'm sort of shocked that nobody has taken a swing at it yet.
Well, you cover the Age of Rebellion, which is my favorite part of Star Wars. I am an original trilogy fan. I love those 3 films, so you're in the right place. I can't wait to talk about it. Now, how did you get assigned to cover the Age of Rebellion? Was that something that you volunteered to do, or were you assigned to cover this era?
It was interesting. Early in the summer of 2021, or maybe midsummer, I had been talking to DK about doing some sort of Star Wars related project, and this happened to come along. And I think I was one of the last, if not the last, of the 5 authors to join the team. But early on, it had kind of been floated to me. They said, we're thinking of kind of having you tackle this era, which was basically in the book is basically the Battle of Yavin to the Battle of Jakku. So basically that 5-year period. And I thought that was great. I thought that'd be a lot of fun because that's like that's the era that we know the best and we grew up with. And so early on, we were sort of talking about that being the era that I would work on, and when it all came down to the deadline and officially signing up, that's what I ended up with, which was great. What I didn't anticipate or really think about, because I was just so excited to be involved in this project, is how much material actually is canon in that 5-year period. And I sort of made the joke that there's no way that real people could actually have done all of these events that take place in that 5 years of Star Wars Galaxy. But yeah, we went into it and just had to just tackle it. But there were so many stories and things that I was sort of tangentially familiar with, and so getting a chance to dive into all of that fresh was really exciting, really fun, but also one of the hardest things that I've ever had to work on.
When you were researching for the book, did you find any events that you had like no clue even happened?
Oh, it's interesting. There were things like, I'll give you an example, like Operation Cinder, which I had heard of course, from the novels. But what's interesting is when you start diving into a certain event, and we actually give 2 spreads to Operation Cinder because it happens across so many different stories. So I actually pulled up over here my spreadsheet that I worked on just to take another look at all of the sources that went into that, and it's huge. It's obviously Battlefront 2, the Shattered Empire comic arc, Alphabet Squadron, Battlefront 2, Star Wars Uprising, Alphabet Squadron Chapter 1, Alphabet Squadron, all these different chapters of Alphabet Squadron. So I think what really surprised me about it wasn't the individual events, but just how many different stories go about tackling that one big event. And so it was fun to sort of try and piece them all together and get them in the right order as we went. So it wasn't necessarily that. I will give you one small one that I did not know about, and I did put it in my section, which was the first time ever that Luke describes using the Force to move an object. He moves a noodle in one of the novels, and I thought that was kind of neat because you never really got to see the first time that Luke did anything really with the Force. So I thought that was cool. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. And you're right. It's only 5 years, but there's so much happening in those 5 years, and it's not just the original trilogy. It's comic books. Hundreds of comic books. It's novels. It's also the Book of Boba Fett. Estimated timeline to have taken place just right after Return of the Jedi. Yeah, so how are you able to gather all this research together and put it in a chronological timeline?
I will tell you, I spent lots, and I know we all did, spent lots and lots of time on the Marvel Unlimited app and website. I had 2 computers and 3 monitors going at all times, pretty much. And yeah, like you said, the comics were really the area that surprised me. There's just so many stories. I mean, there is a rich diet of great Star Wars storytelling that takes place in the comics that are these stories that take place between episode 4 and 5 and between episode 5 and 6 and then beyond. So it's it was a lot of just and there's no a lot of these things you just have to get in there. You have to read them. You take a bunch of notes. I had the Kindle app open all the time on a lot of the novels. That really saved me because having the novels searchable. So if I was looking for a certain character or a certain event or a certain ship or whatever, you could at least search the text and get a little bit closer. But yeah, it was a lot of comic reading, mostly digitally. A lot of novel reading. I had hard copies and digital copies of pretty much everything, and then just kind of building a spreadsheet. So I'll show you here. This is what the book.
Oh my God!
That's what the book looked like to me. So this was a massive spreadsheet.
Yes, an Excel spreadsheet. Yes,
I think my section,
Google Sheets.
Yeah, Google Superior.
I want to say my section had something like 800 plus entries. I can tell you,
Wow.
882 entries.
Hmm.
So that's how I. That's
I
how
hope you had.
I built everything in these spreadsheets.
Yeah.
We all ate, drank, and slept spreadsheets for many months, and but I'll tell you that was this great moment because we worked for months looking at this tiny text on our screens, and then it wasn't until Celebration Anaheim last year, actually, which happens to be the first time I met you all in person. That was when we did a publishing panel, and they revealed all of these spreads in graphic form. So we hadn't seen all of the fantastic layout and artwork and imagery that the DK design team and editors had all put together and made it. Took this eye-crossingly small font from the spreadsheet and made it this beautiful piece of art. And that was really neat.
I hope you had Kindle Unlimited for how much you must have been reading.
Yeah, I ended up downloading a lot of books. I sure did.
Now, obviously, you couldn't include every single storyline in the comics and the novels. So,
Yeah.
how are you? Did the story group help you to take the information? Did they help you to decide what you should put in the timeline?
They did, yeah. There was before I joined, there was sort of a guidance a document that had kind of been put together, and then along the way, we kind of worked off that document, and then yeah, we just sort of put everything in, and then occasionally, just speaking of story group, thankfully we had their occasional guidance along the way. So they would review chapters in progress, and then they would review the final copy. So they were there. It felt like we were working in tandem with them, and it was fantastic because obviously they live, eat, and breathe this stuff constantly, and are the experts on it. And so it was great to have them to be able to bounce ideas off of, and they could kind of steer us one way or another in terms of where things needed to be placed and how much we should write about a certain thing. So that was I think, just to kind of to geek out a little bit, that was hearing that we were going to be able to not only do all this work, but then get story groups input. Like, how often can you say that you worked with story group to put something together? It was phenomenal. It's great.
Although Age of Rebellion was only 5 years in the grand scheme of Star Wars, it was a lot. It was jam-packed with some of the best moments in Star Wars history. What was one of your favorite moments in the timeline?
I loved getting to go through, and I mean, it's my personal favorite was getting to plot out and sort of timeline out the Battle of Hoth, which is one of my favorite scenes or sequences from any Star Wars film ever. And so it was fun to not only take the events from the movie, but to also go in and work in Twilight Company novels and some of the other comics that also touched on the Battle of Hoth, and to kind of weave those things together. And, the whole time, what I found was seeing all of these things in one place just gives you this great new appreciation for things that were happening somewhere that we just never saw in the film, or we never saw. Now you have them all kind of in one place on this timeline. And speaking of just how the again, back to the design, like the design that you see in the book, the actual timeline, if I can find it here. They looked to us to help them kind of plot out how it should look. And so when you see the Battle of Hoth here and you see this timeline, like this started as a very ugly, rough sketch that I did, right? And we all did this. We all kind of drew. In fact, somewhere around here, I've got the original sketch. But anyway, we were asked to do sort of our rough design, which we did, and then they would take that and make it look beautiful. So I really, just because that movie Empire is my favorite Star Wars movie. It's the movie that if I'm doing something in the house and I just want something on the TV that's Star Wars, Empire goes on the TV. So it was just neat to work on something official that, again, tied together different Star Wars stories into one. That I just loved.
So we know very well about some of the battles that took place in your timeline: the Battle of Yavin, the Battle of Hoth, you just mentioned,
Battle of Endor.
the Battle of Endor. There's one battle that most people may not be aware of or don't know about, is the Battle of Jakku. And that took place right about a year after the Battle of Endor.
So right at the end of that part of the timeline.
Yes. Can you talk about the Battle of Jakku? How did it start and how did it end?
Yeah, it really is this. This was the culmination of the Emperor's grand plan to essentially to destroy the remaining elements of the Empire and then go reform somewhere else. And so this was fun because we actually, there's this looming showdown that happens in the lead up, right, between Operation Cinder, all these other things going on, this search for Sith artifacts. And so I loved working on this section because it was, again, a lot going on. There's stuff happening in space. There's stuff happening on the ground. There's stuff happening at the observatory. There's all these characters that we become familiar with in various stories that are all, you kind of see this final culmination of things. And it was neat because I was not familiar really with the Battle of Jakku at the beginning. And so knowing that, from The Force Awakens, that this is where all these destroyed ships ended up, the ones that Rey was scavenging from. So that was enormously satisfying to get in there and piece that together, again, from a lot of different sources. Because if you look at it, one of the things you'll see, and I feel like if you're a comics fan, this is a great book for you, because we really do put, and with all the stories, whether it's video games, comics, novels, young adult novels, all these things, they're all on the same level. They all occupy the same timeline. And, you'll notice a lot of the artwork in here comes from the comics, comes from the printed stories versus the screen. And so to me that's really cool, because somebody who just likes the books or just likes the comics now gets to see them all in one place. And that's just enormously satisfying to have all of that in one place like that.
And the Battle of Jakku is recent. I believe it was a part of the timeline, a part of a tie-in to The Force Awakens in 2015. Right? Yeah. So it was the first time I've heard about it. Well, it started with Operation Cinder, which you did bring up. What was Lost Stars, like 2014? Exactly. But that's exactly
right before. Because it said, Journey to the Force. Like, remember when there would be new movies and all the books that came out before that time would say, like, Journey to the Force Awakens or Journey to...
Exactly right.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Right. So the Journey books, right? One of them was, for the comic series, was Shattered Empire, which is when I was first introduced to Operation Cinder. So at this time, the Emperor is gone, right? We know what happened in Return of the Jedi.
Palpatine went bye-bye.
Right. The second Death Star is destroyed, but the Emperor is still there. I mean, in spirit, because apparently he had a plan in place if something were to happen to him, that any of his remaining Imperial officers, he would give them the assignment to destroy everybody because
Palpatine is a bad boy.
Yeah, he was at a point where if you
he's like, well, if I'm not here, wreak as much havoc as you want because I don't have to experience it.
That's exactly right, and that's what
happened.
Get
them all. Get that one. Destroy that planet.
Destroy this
Build
planet.
the third Death Star. Get them.
That's exactly what happened.
Grab your blasters, everyone.
and right, so it started with Operation Cinder, and then it moved on into Jakku, right? And you brought up the book Lost Stars by Claudia Gray, which I hear a lot of fans of the book say that is one of the best Star Wars books ever written, Lost Stars. And it introduced two characters who were a part of the Battle of Jakku. You know, one was, they grew up on the same planet, but they were friends, good friends, and they split up at some point, and one of them joined the rebellion, the other one joined the Empire, and they actually battled each other on the Battle of Jakku. You know, so you had these New Republic ships, and you had the Empire ships. They're all converging on this planet, and for some reason, Jakku was involved. They were right in the middle of it. There was this Imperial officer who threatened to destroy the entire planet. But
I'm like, how so?
Right.
It's kind of an empty threat.
Well,
I mean, it's not like you have a Death Star behind you.
Well, right, but it didn't happen. So it's just this. Yeah.
There's just so much going on, and actually, there were a couple times in working on this chapter where I was like, you know, that would make a great movie. It's like I wonder if they'll ever make that into a movie. That's a battle I would like to see play out on screen.
I wonder who they'd cast.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember we interviewed Claudia Gray last year, and we asked that question if they would ever make Lost Stars into a film, and she says she doesn't know. She has no idea, but I think that's golden. You have, either a TV series or a movie just from that book. You know.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep. And
I'd say a movie.
It could be a movie.
Because we haven't had any movies since 2019, and we're not getting another one till 2025.
Probably, yeah, you're probably right.
So, I mean, it'd just be kind of nice. I know it's not going to come out between 2023 and 2025 because that's really short notice. But
Keith, you'll be in college then, right?
I know, right?
Not quite.
my math may be off.
Just by a small fraction of about 6 years.
Yeah, I think Keith would have owned his business by then. Yeah,
I would own this podcast.
You would? Okay, well there you go.
I'll be the one with the suit and tie and the briefcase with the $10,000 in it.
Right. Okay.
Like, who wants the Christmas bonus?
As long as you're generous to the people who work for you.
Like, stack of cash for you, stack of cash for you, stack of cash for you. Everyone takes them. You Christmas.
Okay. All right. I'm just finishing up Jakku. So there's this battle over the planet, and then there are these Star Destroyers and New Republic ships are fallen and crash lands on the planet. So you remember at the beginning of The Force Awakens, you see Rey pass by Super Star Destroyer.
Yeah,
that is actually a part of the Battle of Jakku. That was the Super Star Destroyer Ravager, is what it was called. Yeah, so very cool. I love how it all ties in. You know, it's wonderful.
It's so cool.
Legos, like
exactly
the Freemaker Adventures, the Lego All Stars.
Yes,
like that's all tied into it. The Freemakers were actually at the Battle of Jakku.
Yes,
I mean I know that's not technically canon, but like I wish it was, man.
Yeah, that's all right.
Those characters were goated. That was my childhood on Disney XD.
There you go. Understood. Now, Clayton, so now speaking of movies, we know that there are going to be 3 movies in the next 3 to 4 years coming out.
Hey.
Or 3 to 7.
Is there a plan in place yet to revise the Timelines book to add any additional information coming from these films?
Yeah, I don't think I don't think there's I don't think it's being planned yet, but I can tell you I know it's being talked about. I think every DK book at some point gets updated for new information. New editions come out, and I think it'll be probably a few years at least, but I do know that they do want to keep it updated as time goes on. And in fact, there are obviously deadlines that you run into in the publishing world. So there were things that were coming out, and we were toward the end constantly trying to add and make sure that we got the very latest things in there that we could. But obviously, you hit a deadline. So Obi-Wan Kenobi is in here.
Yes.
Book of Boba Fett. But other things are not going to be in there, obviously, because you got to get it to the printer. So it'll be
the things like Ahsoka, like the new shows. Those definitely won't be in there because
that's for the next
spoilers.
The next fall.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I didn't get names for all
you got to wait for things to come out, and that was, to be honest, that was exactly how we worked as authors. We had to wait for things to come out as well. We weren't. I was hoping, but we didn't get any, early previews on anything. So, as soon as it comes out, we can add it in. But yeah, I would, to a roundabout way of answering your question, I would expect in the next couple of years, once they, see how this one does and get enough to warrant an update, I am positive that will happen.
Yeah, they should name them like New Edition, Expanded Edition, Ultimate Edition, Deluxe Edition, and then just leave it at that.
2, yeah.
What has been the feedback on the book? What have you heard?
Oh man, it has been great. When people and that was really surreal when people started to get them in their hands. They would tweet at us, and so far it's just been phenomenal, and it's so great to see that because so many nights and early mornings when I was working on this project with my fellow co-authors. It can be a very solitary, lonely process, and so it was really, really neat to see people get it and then to respond. I've had nobody. I honestly, I would tell you, I have not gotten or seen a negative comment yet, and maybe I'm staying off the right forum or chats or whatever somewhere. So I haven't heard anything negative about it. And I will tell you, it's been fun also to have done this. These other 4 people who I now consider my book family. and that's been really neat. We call ourselves, we usually tag ourselves Team Timelines on social media. Whenever somebody hits us up and tells us that they've gotten the book and that they're enjoying it. So, overall, people seem to really like it. There's some people who tweeted at us that they went through it beginning to end, which is enormously impressive. All 80 some odd pages or whatever. So that's been fun, and people have had really nice things to say. And like you said earlier, like they have been thankful that this book in this form finally exists.
Yeah,
we're grateful too.
I think Keith and I are always off on our timelines, not really quite sure where things fall. But this is the perfect book now. I love. Now
we don't have to do it ourselves.
Right. I love that we have this, and we can always reference it every time we're doing any research. This is the best book to have. So. This is wonderful. I am so glad that you are a part of this, Clayton. If anyone wants to buy this book, where can they get it?
You can hit. I've found it at my local independent bookstores, which is always my preference for buying stuff. But it's also on Amazon. If you search for it on Amazon, it's easy to find.
Amazon.
Excellent. Okay. All right. And Clayton, thank you so much. Where can people find you?
You can find me reporting anytime you want on Scripps News, scripsnews.com. You can find me on Twitter. I'm still there at Clayton_Sandell. And been trying to do more with Instagram lately, which is at Clayton Sandell, no spaces or anything like that. So I'm usually in those places. So hit me up anytime.
Excellent. Keith, where can people find us?
You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Bothers and Galaxy, website, bothersandgalaxy.com. Our Patreon page is patreon.com/FatherSonGalaxy. Merch store, FatherSonGalaxy.myspreadshop.com. And please check out our YouTube page. We are on a race to 1,000 subscribers, and we're trying to get there as quickly as possible. We are 50 away from getting those subs.
Yeah.
So please help us. Every subscriber counts. We're gonna do something special for our 1,000 subscribers. Just a little something, because you guys, helped us out so much and got us so far.
Absolutely.
After 2 years.
Make that 49. Make that 49.
Oh boy, look at that. Look at that. Oh, Clayton. Fantastic. Thank you so much. It is always an honor and a pleasure to speak with you. You're going to become a regular.
The honor is mine. Get out of
Yeah.
here. It's always fun talking to you guys. I love it.
You're going to be a regular on our podcast. I'm sure there's going to be quite a few things.
We had you on?
This is the third time, I believe.
Third?
Yeah. How about that?
Feels like it's been months.
No, it's just, having Clayton is seamless. He just walks right in and,
You're always punctual.
Well, as a newsman, I guess you have to be punctual, right?
You lose your job if you weren't.
We get used to those deadlines. The clock never stops. So, yeah.
Yes. There you go. There you go.
Do you sleep?
Okay, that's a good question. Do you sleep?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't much doing this book, but yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I need look at this face. I need my beauty sleep. Come on.
We are going to have you back, I'm sure, more often. There's a lot of Star Wars coming, and so we can't wait to discuss it with you. So thank you once again for being on the podcast.
Sounds good, gentlemen.
All right.
I can honestly relate with your tiredness. Sometimes I wake up and I do a little like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. All right. Yeah, you guys take care.
Use our sleep. Yes, thank you so much. So,
Tanya and Maceo.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. Until next time, take care. And we will see you again.